Hello there. I am so glad that you're joining me tonight. I know we have had a really big week as a country, and I know a lot of people love what happened. A lot of people hate what happened. A lot of people are like, my hair's on fire about what happened. And the only thing I have to say is that if that stops people from having to suffer radiation burns if they survive an explosion, then I am Team USA all the way. I will always be Team USA, and it doesn't matter one bit who the president is, because my nation is the United States of America, and I fully support her regardless. So that matters to me. I'm done with that. So I am really excited because I have a friend on with me tonight that I love talking to. Sometimes we're really different, but we're almost the same person in other ways, and it's a lot of fun. Victoria Mundae is probably one of the most prolific authors I know. She is always working. She's always coming up with neat ideas. She has made children's paranormal books. She is definitely out of the box. Um, she is working now on, she's got 3 books this year. And I could go on for days listing all of her work because there's that much of it. But she's really interesting. But one of the books that we're going to talk about tonight that's new is The Night Inside, a guided journal to shadow work. And that book stayed on a bestseller list because of the topic and how she was able to help people to work through problems. She's also got a book, Numerology of the Soul. Numerology fascinates me, and I know nothing about it. I don't know why, but I'm really proud of her because she's made paranormal activity books for kids. She has done, that includes Halloween coloring, Halloween word searches. Her modern day cyber grimoire has saved my life on many an occasion, and that is a password keeper. She says she has 2 of them. I believe it. They're that useful. Um, I love that she wrote special tales for my grandchildren, sharing favorite memories, remembering special times, memories from grandparents. I think that's a big deal. So that's what I'm talking about. When I say that she thinks outside the box, she's always thinking. She also paranormal investigates and has a good time doing that. And hello, Robert Gorman. I am so glad to see you, old man, my foot. But anyway, I am going to bring her on, or Carl is. Hey, Victoria.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on. That's so funny. I was thinking about you this morning. I'm like, I really need to get in touch with Kat. And poof, there you were.
It works like that, right? I mean, it does.
Yeah.
It works like that. And Robert said Victoria is the paranormal perfect storm, and yes, she is.
Because no one survives the storm. No, I'm just kidding.
I have for several years now. So, but I'm not in close proximity.
We're the same. Yes.
We pretty much are the same.
Yeah. So it's so good to see you.
It's good to see you too. You know, I told you I'm going to tell people I am wearing my Ziggy shirt. It was where the Beatles ate in St. Andrews. It was established in 1983. And the best burger in St. Andrews, I'm sorry, other restaurants, but my opinion. And Rick McCollum told me yesterday that they have closed. So, I mean, I don't even know why I'm going back to St. Andrews this year. I mean, seriously, no, I'm kidding. Because it's freaking gorgeous and the Kingdom of Fife is haunted as all get out. So, and that's what I do. I paranormal investigate. So I am devastated that Ziggy's isn't there anymore, but we are repping them tonight, just memoriam for them.
Yeah.
But, you know, you should really travel with us sometime.
I would love to.
It's interesting.
Next year is going to be well, you know my whole story, but the last 4 or 5 years has just been trying to reinvent myself without a net, basically.
Yeah, you're doing a good job.
Well, thank you. I'm still standing. I I have taken that's one of the reasons I started doing those books, the journaling type books, is because I've taken a long, hard look at myself, and it wasn't always pretty. But, I faced the demons and the darkness, and I have learned from that. And so next year is going to be my travel year, I've decided.
Well, maybe we could connect. I think that would be fun.
Yeah. I've always wanted to go to Gettysburg.
Well, so. I love Gettysburg. I think that as a town, it's surprising.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very obviously old town. It's not the prettiest town.
Yeah.
But it is one of the most amazing towns I've ever been to. And I love history. As my friend Gregor Stewart in Scotland says, you would love him. He is also a prolific author.
Ooh,
and,
okay.
His whole thing and Haunted Scotland's whole thing is, the history is the mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And so Gettysburg is full of both. It's so cool. And one of my favorite parts is going to the battlefields. You shouldn't investigate there. People do anyway. But I don't know what is happening with my stuff. I guess I'm talking about Gettysburg, right?
The solar flares have gone off. Well, I think there's a huge difference between investigating and going there and just experiencing. And that's what I do. I don't, walk around with devices going, is there anybody here who wants to talk to us?
Exactly.
I go there, I absorb. Most of the time I end up crying.
Well, you will see them. You will see them physically.
Yeah.
And that was my first experience. The first time I ever was, because I flew into Reagan that time when I was coming in a different way from how I come from Baltimore. And it was my first time ever. And I'm just tooling in, right? And down to my left, there was a gorgeous house, just a small period house. And there were people milling around outside it. So they looked like reenactors. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. They must be practicing, or maybe that's the thing. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just, because I'm driving, I'm not staring. But when I glanced back over, they were all gone. And I was like, oh, and so it starts. I must be on the battlefield, And
there's I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm okay. It was just odd.
Well, that happens all the time. There's a place in Mineral Wells, which is about an hour from where I live. It was an old Camp Walter, I think is what it's called. But it's shut down now. And I had no idea. This is another book I'm going to be writing, working on. I had no idea we had German POWs here in Texas.
I didn't either.
They were everywhere. And so I get claustrophobic when there's too many people and too many vibes. I got to walk out of the room for a little bit. So it was a dark and stormy night. Actually, it was a dark night. I was literally like, Velma and Scooby-Doo, my glasses, walking around. I couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
And so there was a little house across the street. And so I held up my phone and I was taking pictures. And so I start, just zooming around, total darkness. I can't see what the heck I'm doing. Well, over to my left was a German POW barrack. I had no idea it was there until I got back. When I got back over there, I was like, what the heck? Because it looks like, the old shacks our schools used to be in. I don't know if you had okay. It was a long, it was a barrack is what it was. I took several, how you're supposed to take several pictures and then move. Okay. So the first two pictures, this one window was totally, it had some sort of, I don't know if it was a reflection of the moon or something, but there was some sort of light in that one window. In the third picture, you could see a silhouette of a man. I'm like, whoa, what the heck? And so I'm, zooming in and I'm lightening it up so I can get a better look. And then in the yard, there's all these figures of silhouettes. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps now, of men. So I go running back in there. Oh my God, you won't believe what look what I found, And they're like, oh yeah, Germans, they were here. They were all over Texas. And half of Mineral Wells, well, not half of Mineral Wells, that's not correct. At that time, the Germans were released as trustees. And so they would paint murals and stuff. So the murals that are on the walls in Mineral Wells are from the German POWs. And it's just this cute little town. They're all over the place. There's a cemetery where the school is, or the school might have moved by this time. But it's where the Germans were buried when they died in that area. So it's a little German cemetery. So my idea, nobody steal this idea, okay, is to go to these old German barracks. Have someone like me who intuitive does the drawing and sketching and see what they can pick up, and then have a companion who does all the little ghost hunting equipment, see what we can find, create, something symbiotic of the two. And I was going to call the book Recaptured the Lost Voices, so it would just be EVPs and stuff like that. And there's like 70 or 75 former places in Texas where there were German prisoners.
Get out.
Yeah, I'm out. A lot of
That's
buildings
really
aren't there
cool.
anymore.
I mean, that's really a great idea.
So then once I started looking into that, then I'm starting to find all the territorial forts, because we had cowboys and Indians everywhere up here. Like, okay, that's not too far. I can go do that one weekend, just go sit out there. I mean, they're not going to, what are they going to do? Chase me off? I was like, I'm just sitting, I'm just drawing, just sketching, just crying. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm investigating.
Yeah, that empath side is hard sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just being quiet, just being me. I'll let them do their, boxes and lights and stuff over there. But I think that would be fun.
Yeah. Well, I think the boxes are fun because I'm always amazed. I don't give myself enough credit sometimes, right? And my friend Rick is always yelling at me for that. And Barbara Spur said, "Hello, Victoria."
Hello, Barbara.
But it's so funny because he's like, you're really good at this and you don't tell anybody. I'm like, well, I'm not doing it to tell anybody. I'm doing it
for me
because I'm doing it for me. When I connect with the spirit, it's so cool. And, I don't always hear. I will see. I don't always hear. But when I hear, I feel like they've had to put effort into this, right? And I get so excited because I don't need a box. I do like using a box because I feel like it gives them a little bit more opportunity.
Yeah.
But, but when you actually hear someone talking to you and you turn around and there's nobody there in body, it's like, well, hello. I didn't realize you were working that hard, and it's fun. And you feel I feel so blessed every time that happens because you have to put an effort in.
I was going to say, I feel very honored when I hear things and I turn and there's nothing there. But when I hear things and I turn and there is something there, that's a whole other story. But
yeah,
a lot of times I was, a couple of weeks ago, we had a guest on Edge of the Rabbit Hole. And so we were talking about all sorts of channeling and spirit guides and all that kind of stuff. And I told her that I have been, because I live here alone with a cat. Now the cat does speak. He has about a 5 or 6 word vocabulary. He really does. His favorite is like, I'll ask him like, what are you doing? And he'll go, I don't know. Like, okay, so you don't know.
That is so funny.
Anyway, but I will find myself, I'll be doing the dishes or something. I'm like, no, it's over there on the left. I'm like, who the heck am I talking to? I didn't hear a question. I didn't hear anything, but I answered. I don't know if that's a higher form of communication I'm just not picking up on yet, or that I'm going crazy. One of the two, I don't know. But it's been that way for the last couple of years. Like, I think so. But who am I talking to? Why am I answering?
Well, you answer because they're talking to you.
But I'm not aware of it. Yeah.
It's just really interesting. And I just had someone ask if we were on Instagram, and we are not, but we're on everywhere else. So if that's a friend of yours, they can listen to us on Facebook at the Things Network, or the Born TV Bill of Rights Network, also on Facebook. And you can listen to us on YouTube at Fate Mag Radio. So you can also listen on X, but you can't get in chat. So X would be Fate Magazine Radio or Para Experienced. At Para Experienced. We're on both. So anyway, and my YouTube, Kat Hobson. So now we've got that out there. So spread the word. If you've got a friend that's trying to find us, that's where you're going to find us. But I really am having so much fun because what do you think is being said?
I have no idea. I don't know, but it's always like they're asking my opinion or where is something.
Yeah.
Like, do you think this shirt makes me look fat? Oh, no, it's fine. No, I don't know.
But just communicating.
Yeah, it's just, I see them all the time. There was something when I first came, I'm renting this house. And when I first came here, I'm in this little bitty country town of 10,000 people that's extremely haunted. We had Native American stuff going on. They say Civil War, but I don't really believe that. Bonnie and Clyde was here, but heck, Bonnie and Clyde was everywhere, I think.
They were.
And even Jesse James's grave is here. And it says on the headstone, I'm the real Jesse James. So Lee Harvey Oswald allegedly came here after not dying, came here for a while. So it's like all these hauntings are here. But when I first came to look at this house, I walked into the bedroom and I looked over at the right-hand side, like, I don't know what the heck that is, but that's something weird over there. So I ignored it. Went ahead and rented the house. My cat, Toby, will sit there at my bed and just stare at that spot all night
Was
long.
it weird like a portal or weird just like a wave or what kind of weird?
Kind of like a creepy energy. Like, like if the baseline was 0 everywhere around the energy field, this was like at a 10. So I don't know what that would have been. It was just more magnetic. I was really drawn to that corner. And so he won't even sleep. He'll, curl up next to me when I'm sitting on my bed and he'll sit there for a little bit, but then he'll go to the edge of the bed at the farthest end. So I don't know. There is something there. So I've given up, trying to figure out what the heck it is. And I see the little shadows all the time. And I'm thinking they're the little pets and stuff we have lost over the years. And so, I'm playing on my phone or something and shadows are just darting around.
Right. It's so disconcerting at times.
It's like, it's just, what are you going to do? They don't hurt me. So maybe it's a portal. I mean, because it's all coming from that same area.
It probably is. I was going to add, we have a comment from Robert who says, not every voice in our head is ours. Not
True.
Every question asked is meant for us. We're telepathically eavesdropping.
That's probably what it is.
Yeah.
So, or I'm talking to the cat. I don't know.
I talk to my dogs and, it's really funny because, with animal communication, which is real, once you learn your animal and your animal learns you, there really is communication.
There is.
Like, I'm going out. Does anyone want to go with me? And depending on how hot it is, they'll just kind of like me like, oh,
I know that
I'm done, right? And sometimes Wally will actually just roll over like, oh, kill me now. So it's like, no.
Yeah. But I'll ask him. I'm like, I got to go to the store. Do you want to go with me? And he'll raise his head up like, can you not see I'm laying on the sofa?
I am so comfy. Leave me alone.
Why? It's 100 outside. I don't want to go. Like, we stay right there. I'll be back in about 20 minutes. And, and if I'm late, and I always tell him, I'll be gone for 3 hours. I'll be gone. I don't know. It's just a safety thing. I've always done it. Yeah. And for some reason, if I'm taking longer, like one day I went, I ran my errands and decided to go to a movie, and then I took myself to lunch, and I was gone a good 6-7 hours. When I got back, there was all hell to pay, I wasn't back like I said I would be, but got to check in with a cat now.
Well, that's funny because cats are like that.
No, they
are.
They watch.
They are. I had a cat. She was almost like a dog with her behaviors, but yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, when an animal, I think that's why people call them familiars.
Yes.
If you have animals that live with you, you can develop relationships like that. And, they sense stuff before I do on occasion.
All the time.
And like we were sitting out in the gazebo today And it's just a little gazebo on the side of the yard and it's shade, right? So they like it when I'm out there. They come sit with me. And a tree limb from one of my neighbor's trees fell in my yard. And it was a big limb. I was just kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't move that, But meanwhile, I heard the crack and then it came down, it landed on my fence and, just was kind of like posed up on the fence.
Yeah.
And they knew it was going to happen because they're wigging out and moving up to the deck. And I'm like, where are we going? What's after
Right.
us? Well, the tree was going to be after us. So it's really an interesting concept. I know there are a lot of books that I've read on spirit animals. There's a lot of books I've read on animal relations and, and familiars and things of that nature. And it's really, I am the least likely person to go with the familiars theme.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't deny that when I adopted Wally, the most recent addition to our household, he's a great big dog. He's 88 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And he had been damaged, right? He had been hurt. And he was very leery because it was me and David, and we had Tipper with us because you have to meet everybody. And Wally was like, I don't think so. And I took a knee and got down in front of him and just made eye contact and said, I'm safe. I am a safe place. And, we love everybody. And he just kind of bumped me, booped me.
Mm-hmm.
And, he looked at me to analyze me. And from that point on, he has been imprinted on me, and I can't do anything in private anymore, ever. So, because he's big enough to crash a door. So,
yeah. Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's just kind of, but he gets along really well with Tipper. At first, he was kind of like her, and I was like, if you're going to live here, he was here first. Just saying. And same thing with grandkids, things like that, because they do listen to you.
Oh, yeah. I think they are very precognitive because I also do Greg Koss's show first Wednesday of the month, and we do double Estes sessions across the country. And so a lot of times it's like we're talking back and forth to each other, ding, 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 or we're talking about weird stuff. And extraterrestrials are coming through now. But it
really?
never fails. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of stuff coming through. But it never fails that he will come in here because, you can see him, he'll walk in, you'll see the tail, coming by like a shark. He knows when my dad and my husband are going to come through because he'll start. There's one time I had my earbuds in, I couldn't see. And, I look into a crystal ball because I do scrying. And I didn't know it, but he was just jumping up in the back of behind my chair, and he was screaming and making noise. And the words I was hearing, it was actually my 30th wedding, or would have been my 30th wedding anniversary. And the words that were coming through was, hi, I miss you, I love you, I'm here. And he was jumping up and screaming, and I didn't realize it until I played it back. I'm like, oh my God, he knew Scott was here. So it happens all the time, and he just did it again this last week when I was involved in a phone call that wasn't going well. He was doing everything he possibly could to get me off the phone, which ended up being the best thing I could have done to break that connection.
That's
so
good.
I mean, yeah,
we're kind of weird.
Yeah,
I like it. It's a good weird.
It gets even weirder because part of the self, and I'll tell you this because you're a friend, and I know your listeners are friends too. But I've done a lot of self-reflecting over the past couple of years. I have no family left. I have no relationships. It's just the cat and I. And I have come to a conclusion that I'm going to do things to make me happy now. Now I have to figure out what the hell makes me happy.
That's a big ticket.
Well, that's taken a year to figure out. But I have discovered, and it's not advertised. You have to know somebody who knows somebody. But they're deep in the East Woods, the piney woods of East Texas, there is a tiny house community, and it backs up to the woods. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want it because I pretty much have a tiny existence. I want to buy a tiny house. I'm going to move to the woods. I'll live there with my cat and do my remote work. This is every girl's dream. I can make
Yes.
candles. I'll have my apothecary table, and I'll live in the woods. So yes, that's what I want to
That's
do.
pretty exciting.
Yeah, and it's Bigfoot country too. So there's a lot of cryptids there. We do
Really?
CE, yeah, we do CE5. So if it's out as remote as I think it is, you can see the stars. It'll be great.
That would be the best part.
Yeah, I'm excited. Just need $1 million. But
You need Amazon because they sell tiny houses that are not expensive.
Well, these are a certain kind. They have to have a RIVA title or something. They have to be less than 399 square feet because there's no property tax. So it's just this cheap little house out in the woods.
Look on Amazon. I mean,
Okay.
just look. I'm telling you, they have shoeboxes to mansions, but they do sell tiny houses like little mother-in-law houses or windy houses to put in the backyard. You can get those on Amazon.
That's my next big project. I'll be out there in the woods writing my little books, making my candles,
and having a good time.
Living with my cat. I'll have a margarita machine on the front porch.
Well, if you have a margarita machine or a Margaritaville margarita machine, yeah.
Come on.
That's a good day.
There's room. Yeah. They can sleep up to 6 or 10 people depending on what floor plan you get. So
yeah.
Do
they have floor plans to choose from?
Oh yeah, and then they'll customize it. Like if you don't want a wall there, they'll change the wall. I don't need a dishwasher. I need the wine cooler cabinet. So that's one of the things I want. Next, I put my Diet Coke in there. So
well, sure. Do they have water?
Yeah, everything is hooked up. It's on a septic, but your water, everything's included with the rental price of the plot except electricity. So
well, that is sweet. And if you really wanted to live large, you could get one of those small washer dryer. They're all one unit.
They come with
those. We use those in Scotland a lot.
Yeah, they come with it. The refrigerator comes with it. Everything, the oven, stove, everything you can think of.
Oh my gosh, Victoria!
I know. Let's go. Come on. I asked them because it's word of mouth only. I said, well, if I get like three or four people to move up here with me, will you name a street after me? Can there be a Victoria Court? It's like, maybe.
So. Court would be good for you.
Right. I get a golf cart. Just drive around my kingdom. Anyway, there's nothing paranormal in that. Wouldn't that be fun?
It's a little freaky for us. And a good time.
Yeah. I'll be out there
Mundae way. Good one, Barbara. That was a good one. So
every day is Monday with me.
But in a good way.
Oh,
it's the best Mondays I know.
Woo.
So
anyway.
And Carl has an image up. Pop that in there, Carl. Let's see it. There you go. That's the Amazon one.
Wow, that's gorgeous.
Well, I'm telling you. I mean,
do they deliver and set it up for you?
I'm pretty sure they do deliver. It's Amazon.
3-bedroom. Wow. Okay.
That's schmancy.
That's pretty darn nice. Yeah.
You can get any freaking thing on Amazon, man. No kidding. I am always so shocked because I'll think, or Carl will tell me something, and I'm like, I can get that on Amazon? Yep. I'm just
Amazon is amazing.
Amazon is the new Walmart, except with a lot better selection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the little boutique we all shop at. So.
It's very true. When I first moved here, I moved in July a couple of years ago, and we were on it was like 102 every day. And I needed things because I was moving. I didn't have a mop. I didn't have a broom. Didn't have a desk. And so I ordered everything from Amazon. It was like $1,000. And so my front little alcove of my house was just filled up one day. I'm like, oh, thank you, Amazon. I'll just bring all this in. It's too hot to go outside. So.
Well, I am so, I buy my ghost hunting equipment there now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've got, I mean, I have a pink K2. I got my best friend a purple one because she's a purple girl. And, I mean, I'm buying equipment that I know is mine when I see it.
Right.
Right. And it's, it's much less and it's much better than getting it at most of the para stores. So,
True.
the
Yeah.
exception to that would be Bob Christopher. I love his equipment. But, there's that.
I didn't know they had a pink K2. That would be fun.
They do. They have several colors to choose from. They have the green ones. I mean, there's a whole array of colors, and just Google it. I mean, just
haven't looked
search
in
it
a
on
while.
Amazon.
There was a time when I was just equipment crazy,
Yeah.
and I was buying everything. I probably needed an SUV for all my equipment, and then
Right.
I'd always forget to bring it with me, or I'd be by myself. I'm like, well, I can't carry that, so I would just leave it. So
Yeah.
I pared that down. So now I just have like 5 to 10 pieces that I use when I remember.
Well, I have a
but-
gun vest that David got me,
Oh.
a hunting vest.
Uh-huh.
And for travel, I have what they call a Scotty vest, and it has like 27 pockets and like a safe place. I can carry my iPad with me. I can really carry my laptop. I've got a RFID secure pocket for my passport. And
brilliant.
I mean, I don't have to carry a bag when I travel because I wear my Scotty vest. And in Scotland, you really need something, warmer. But it's real lightweight. And see, there you go. Well, I don't have the green one, but orange, purple.
Cute.
Yeah. Isn't that awesome? Thank you, Carl. So,
I
and
need to
I
go
have
shopping.
pink. I know, right? But I don't use, I mean, I have so much stuff and I don't really use it that often because I just don't. I use a voice recorder, a video recorder.
Yeah.
Because I want documentation so that I'm remembering, right?
Right.
I don't want, so that I have stuff. I don't want to remember. I have stuff. And it's really amazing because basically I'm investigating for me. I'm not really, I don't share evidence that much. Another thing I get fussed at for. But, it's not, I'm not doing it for attention. You don't do it for attention.
Yeah.
It's just an experience, right?
It's part of you. Yeah.
Yeah. And since I've gotten older, my interactions are not as strong as they were premenopause, right?
Mm-hmm.
The hormones help with that.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer in that because when I was going through adolescence, it was just like, hello,
Mm-hmm.
And then during childbearing years, it started again to get that strong. Did you have that experience as you came through?
Well, they've always been there.
Yeah.
As a kid, I mean, and I was
not
always
ebb
told,
and flow?
no, I choose to see and not see, I think is what it was, because I was being told, no, you're not seeing that. It's your imagination. No, you're wrong. People still do that to me today. No, that didn't really happen. We were, the picture I sent you we're playing cards and we're wearing ghost sheets.
Yeah.
We were in a brothel, an old brothel, for my birthday this past year. And I don't know what I was doing. I was bent over. And when I raised my head up to look, my bangs, I can't ever see too far. But I saw from like the knees down, some legs walking up to the door. I was like, what the heck? And it was a man, he had trousers on and did a double take and he was gone. Yeah. Several months go by. And my friend was with her daughter and I'm not sure where they were. And she goes, yeah, we just saw the bottom parts of legs walking up. I'm like, isn't that weird? Because I've seen that too.
Rick had that happen at Old South Pittsburgh many, many years ago. And he had it on video. He shared it. And
the craziest thing.
Yeah. I mean, why just the legs? Is it that hard to manifest? I don't think so.
But we do a lot of this stuff we do during the day, because, we're old and there's margaritas. Let's be honest. There's wine, there's nachos somewhere. So we don't do a lot of investigating at night. Like everyone wants to be in the total darkness with their little
You can't
green
see in the
eyes.
total darkness.
I know.
I mean, you miss a lot.
I was at this one place. I was with a group of friends, and there was a para-celeb movie star / person there. And the way the original building was, it was the original building, and then there was a door that went out. And it was a brothel / hotel, whatever. And so when they put the extension on, they just built around it. So you can tell where the building stopped and the new building started. And it was like that for 3 sections. And everyone was crowded around the first section. And they're looking around the door. And so I go walking up. One guy's there with his camera. And I go walking up, like, what are we doing? And they're like, there's a shadow down there. I'm like, oh, okay. And so we're all up against the wall. And I'm thinking, well, I'm paying for this. Why am I down here? I said, is it okay if I go down there? And they're like, are you sure? It's there's a shadow down there and it's dark. And I'm like, I've been through childbirth. There is nothing that's frightening me
Nothing
anymore.
can scare me anymore. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
After 2 days of labor, nothing. So I walked down there, and the celebrity person's like, should we let her go do that? And I just turned around and looked at him.
Hello?
What are you here for? Why are you hiding back behind a door? So I go down there to where the shadow is. And yeah, there was a shadow there. And it is weird. I don't know how to explain it. It was just small. And then it kind of went up and it kind of went over me like it was trying to scare me. And so, I'm Southern. I put my hands on my hips and I'm like, yeah.
What else you got?
Nice to meet you. And it went back down and it went into the room. And I'm like, he's over here now. And so then they all came down. But, like, this realm is a part of life.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way I see it, I've lived through some crap, let's say. I have lived through frightening times. I'm from the duck and cover age, like, oh, yeah, bombs may be coming. Let's go get under your desk and cover your neck.
Yep. I do remember 7th grade. We were doing that.
It's like, well, that's really not going to save you if a nuclear bomb is coming, Yeah. Okay. I see you're trying to comfort us, but, but there have been scary times.
Right? You have to have something.
Yeah.
To give you a sense of control. So that you don't panic and run down the hall.
You have to have something to hang on to ground yourself. And I have found that, well, this is going to sound weird, but I ground myself. I have my beliefs. I have my faith. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. What can I do? I'm not going to intentionally put myself in the way of danger. Although that happens sometimes. I don't mean to, but, if it happens, it happens. And I have friends who are for the events that happened, I think Friday. I'm not sure. My days are all mixed up. They're all running around screaming, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. Look what they've done to us. I'm like, well, if it happens, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing we can do. You and I, perhaps if we were in a position of power, we could change things. But you and I are just little individuals on this planet. Sitting in our homes, we can't change what's happened in the world. We can only change what happens in our environment.
Yes. And people, I mean, I understand wanting your voice to be heard. I understand wanting to take ownership of an environment and trying to have some semblance of control.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what that is. But if your hair is on fire every time the wind blows or a leaf turns, then you're burning yourself up. You're not initiating change because you're not taken seriously anymore because you've screamed the sky is falling too many times.
Exactly.
And I'm with you. Maybe it's because we're of a certain era or a certain age, or we've just seen so freaking much that now nothing else is going to faze us because you know what? Bump that. We've got this.
Yeah.
I agree with you. You can only wig out so much until it's just exhausting. You're not implementing change. All you're doing is making people sick of looking at you and immune to your voice. And, you know,
Yeah,
you
I've been
just
that way
can't do
for.
it.
That's very true. I used to work for the Walt Disney Company. That's what started this domino effect of being laid off every time I got a job. That's why I realized, looking back now, I should have made a change in my life back then. I think I would have stopped all this chaos I've gone through over the past few years. But we had like a 2-month notice that we were going to get laid off. And it was just me and like 2 other women and 35 men. Because, it was the sports network of Fox. And they're running around like, have you looked for a job? What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go here? You have to go to New York. You have to go to LA. There's nothing left in Houston. What are you going to do? And they were running around in this henny penny, mindset. And so I would look at them. Finally, I got so tired of them saying that. I'm like, we're just going to die. So it doesn't matter.
That part's inevitable. Yeah.
So that's what I need to worry about. I will figure out the rest of the part. There'll be something that'll show up. Might not be the right thing, but yeah, I've learned. But they're like, yeah, that's very que sera, sera. It's very Doris Day.
Well, but I have found that I'm a lot happier when I live that way. Can I read you 2 comments that Robert has made?
Yeah.
The first that we haven't gotten is, it's surprising how many ufologists and ghost chasers run when they encounter what they're hunting for.
Exactly.
And I mean, it is ufology as well. People that go looking for CE5, who go to CE5 experiences, are just like, oh my God, panic. And it can be scary. So be sure you know what you're asking for. And then he said, past, present, and future are simultaneous. Changing timelines is harder than it looks. And he's right.
Yeah. That's one of the things I've been working on, is trying to change my timeline. And I realized I think I did succeed and do that for a little bit, because everything started working right for me. Everything started falling into sync. Everything was it was like I was blessed. But then I had personal tragedies happen in my life. And I realized, when I asked to change timelines, I didn't ask for those people to come along and be on my new timeline. So that made me start thinking, well, perhaps that this is my timeline and that is their timeline, and we just intersected for a little bit. Hopefully they'll reconnect in the future. Fingers crossed. But yeah, it was a little like, swerving in the middle of the lane. You didn't know which lane to get into. Do I want to go back and be in that horrible, horrible existence, but I'm with them? Or do I want to go over here where I'm peaceful and happy, and I have a cat, and I have a tiny house where I make candles and have an apothecary table? So I'm going over here. So it's, I don't know.
I always feel like if you're supposed to be together, they'll jump too.
Yeah. I don't think it was her time to be on my timeline. I think there was a beginning, there was a genesis where I gave her all the information I had, did the best I could. And then she went off and fragmented on another timeline. So that left me, I don't want to say isolated, but basically,
bereft.
Yeah. So I'm over here. So.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Oh, thank you. Me too. So.
Well, how do you feel that people do manage to change their timeline?
A lot of that. Have you ever tried astral projection? Sorry, my Southern slipped out. Astral projection. Astral projection.
Well, actually, I don't. I have done it without trying. It was very disconcerting and kind of freaky. It tripped me out.
We were, because I've always been interested in metaphysics, since I learned what the word was. I want to say Shirley MacLaine opened my eyes.
Okay.
Before it was metaphysics, it was the New Age. And before that, it was, Madame Blavatsky or whatever her name is, the great thinkers of the world. And so I started doing there was a lot of occult studies, and I'm like, well, that's just not my path, And then I found like philosophy, and that was a little bit more my path. And philosophy and religion and self-help and New Age, and then it just kind of all goes together. And hey, it's metaphysics. And then there's Alexander Crowley and all this kind of stuff. But anyway, about 10 years ago, I had a little group of friends, and we were joking around, like, wouldn't it be funny if we ended up trying to project over into what's her name's dream? And so for 7 days, every night as we go to sleep and start hitting that theta wave, I'm like, I'm in so-and-so's dream. I'm not interacting with her. I'm not interrupting her dream. All I want is for her to have the most peaceful, restful sleep she could possibly have. And so I did that for 7 days. Yeah, I don't know if I went over there or not. But then we had lunch like a week or so later, and she's like, I have been having the strangest dreams. I'm like, really? What happened? And she's, you were in them. I'm like, I was in them. What did I do? And she's like, you didn't do anything. You were just kind of in the background. I'm like, okay. So I always just called it dream walking, but it's when you get to that theta stage, you just keep saying to yourself, it's like somewhere in time, when Richard Collier was trying to get to go see, I forgot her name.
Jane Seymour.
Yeah. You just keep thinking
that's the best movie.
Just makes me cry every time. But you just keep thinking that you play it over in your head as you fall asleep. And I think when you hit the theta wave, if you do it enough, you actually are carried along. And it's the same thing. I forgot what the original question was now.
Shifting timelines.
Oh, okay. That same thing. It's like, I want to be on the timeline where I am the happiest and the most successful. And you just kind of keep thinking that. And then you imagine in your head, like, what would being happy and successful look like? I have no idea.
It's very personal.
I know. I was there with Toby, and we were having a good time, and I don't remember seeing any family members or friends, but I could feel in my heart that I was really happy. I was excited. I knew I was writing. I knew I was finally able to speak my truth without people going, you're stupid. What are you talking about? That's not how it works, because that's the way people have always treated me my whole life. But now everyone that I loved and I care about are now gone. So I have this kind of freedom where I can say that, and I really don't care what my next door neighbor thinks of me. I'm not on the roof with a telescope looking for aliens or anything, but, I'm doing my own thing quietly and privately in my backyard, I'm not hurting anyone. So I'm living my authentic self. That's the key, I think, is being authentic to yourself.
And yet people find that to be one of the hardest things to do.
It is. It's incredibly hard.
It is.
It's
society has a lot of dictates.
Yeah. I had a friend a couple of weeks ago who told me, man, I wish I was like you. I'm like, no, you don't. Believe me, you don't want to be like me. She's like, no, I wish I was as independent as you are. I was like, I'm not independent. I am self-sufficient. There is a huge difference.
There is a huge difference.
I have no one to help me. I have no one. If I drop something, and I have a mobility problem, if I drop something on the ground, now I got to figure out how to pick it up, because I can't get down on my knees and get it and get back up. I'm getting there. I probably, hopefully by the end of the year, I'll be able to. Right now I can't. And so if I drop something, it stays on the ground for a little bit until I really need it.
Grippers, so, the little grippy things.
I've got really good coordination with my toes.
That comes with necessity. Yes.
Yeah. So
you work on that.
Being self-sufficient is incredibly different from being independent.
Yes, it is.
So anyway, I forgot the question again. See,
we're back to timelines, and then a woman telling you that they wish that they were as independent as you are, when it's very difficult to be independent. Self-sufficient is one thing. It's very difficult to live independently.
You have to stand in your authenticity, and a lot of people tell you you're full of crap, and sometimes it's very isolating to keep hearing that same negative message over and over. So I have learned, when not going to mention any names, but I was on a podcast and we started talking about the hollow earth, and this other person was like, he had poo-pooed me for years when I would talk about the hollow earth. I believe it's like an ant bed, where there's little pockets.
Well, it is.
Sorry. Oh, no, it's my opinion. He said that, I never said that. I said I didn't believe that there was a sun in the middle of the earth. Well, I never said that either. But now that more people are saying that the hollowed earth is legitimate and it's a real thing, now he's jumping on board. Whatever. But I had to stand in my own truth for all these years. When I was getting dumped on, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to stay solid in my belief. You'll catch up to me. Eventually someone will.
Well,
anyway.
And that's part of working with someone else. I've done this show for 5 years, Paranormal Experience for 10. I've never had a co-host.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had someone who would fill in for me. And I wanted to have my research partner come on with me when I had Stanton Friedman on, and he was like, I'm going to listen.
He's intimidating.
Yeah. Stanton was, it was the eyebrows. All the time.
I met him once. I felt this big after speaking to him.
You should not. Do you know how I met him? I answered the phone when he called me on my freaking watch. And then he says, "This is Stanton Friedman. Somebody called and left me this number." And I'm like, "I'm going to have to call you back." I was like, I'm Dick Tracying you is what I told him. I figured he would understand that. Right. And he was like, when I called him back, he was like, "What is this Dick Tracying you speak of?" And because I did get to meet him and did get to spend time with him, so I can just, but and I was like, I had not been doing Paranormal Experience for very long, right? I was still fairly new, and I just shot for the stars, right? I wanted to know about UFOs. Who am I going to talk to? Stan Friedman. And so it was so funny because he's the nicest person I've ever met, as far as being willing to, well, not ever, because there's a lot of people I've been fortunate decided that they would help me to understand things that were beyond my ken. But it's really interesting that person was so nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he never poo-pooed me. When we finally got to meet in person, he was upset at first because they had lost his merch bag the airline had. And then once he got it and he sold out of everything, he was like, "Come and sit with me. We'll talk. I'm through selling stuff. Nobody's going to come talk to me anymore." And I'm like, everybody's going to want to come talk to you. And, so we became friends. And but to be able to grasp what he was teaching was definitely beyond my education level. And yet, I don't even know how I got here. But it's so fortunate when you were getting poo-pooed, and I really expected kind of to be poo-pooed by Stanton. And it's really a telling indicator of the people that you're interacting with when your co-host did not respect you enough not to play you off about that.
Yeah.
And yet a world-renowned nuclear physicist who helped develop the atomic weapons that we used and who is the guy on UFO secrecy was the most charming and made me feel totally adaptable and, able to understand his work.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Says a lot about the people.
I know. I met him. I actually went, and this is way before we had Paracons and Contact in the Desert and all this kind of stuff. This was back in 1997 where they had the 50th anniversary of the alleged crash in Roswell.
Yes.
So, of course, I wanted to go because William Shatner was going to be there. And he's always had been someone I wanted to meet.
Right.
But he didn't show up. So I drove.
Oh, what a bummer.
I know. It's like, But anyway, they had this symposium there. Linda Moulton Howe was there, Stanton Friedman, Bud Hopkins.
I would have loved to have met him.
Eric Van Donken, or is that how you say his name? Donken?
Doneken.
Okay, he was there. Everybody you can think of was there. Stanton Friedman was there. And I was a new mother, and I looked like a new mother. And it was hot, and my husband and the baby had gone out, and I was like, diaper bag. And so I ran back in, and it's this old 1950s-esque looking military symposium auditorium, like something from that mid-century modern period. And so I get the diaper bag and I'm running back out, and he comes walking in, and I'm like, Mr. Friedman, oh, I really enjoyed your speech. I enjoyed it thoroughly. And he had taken his glasses off and he was cleaning them on his tie, and he's like, are you a researcher? I was like, no, I'm just someone who's really interested. And he went, huh. And he walked off. I'm like, oh my God, don't look at me. But looking back on it now, I see the humor in it. But at that time, I just felt like I just wanted to die. I just wanted to disappear,
Well, I'm going to tell you that he would never have wanted to make you feel like that.
Okay.
And, he would be chagrined to know that he did. That's just something that he was just very direct and very abrupt. Yeah. And probably he couldn't get the damn spot off his glasses, and he was annoyed.
I think it was
my guess. So
the dinner break, because it was right about 5:30, and they were breaking for a couple hours, and he probably just wanted to get to dinner. And I was like, "Oh, so sorry."
Well, trust me, he was not annoyed. He would not have been annoyed. But Robert has another comment about this timeline thing. Mm-hmm. Are you up for it?
Sure.
He says, it's hard to discern changing timelines unless you grasp the trajectory of the world line you're on.
What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Yes, I kind of agree. I kind of understand what he was saying. I had in the past, and this is part of the long, hard look of my life. And this is not a poor me story or anything, but when you do the shadow work, you have to be point blank honest with yourself, because if you are going to lie to yourself, how can you expect anyone to be honest with you if you can't even be true to yourself? And I used to be the person that everybody wanted to be with. I applied for a job, I would get it instantly. Everybody wanted me on their team. Everybody wanted me to work on their projects. And it shifted in the 90s. And then everything became a struggle. And it up until a couple of years ago. And I had to be honest. I'm like, what did I do? What did I do to change? And it was also, let's throw astrology in. It was also my Saturn return, which is, where you're going along in life. And if you're not going correctly, then Saturn gives you a little hip check and you move over to this timeline, and you go on that timeline. So all this is going on at the same time. And the thing that I did, the major change in my life, was I got married and I had a baby. I don't regret either of those. I love my husband. I love my daughter. But those were the two things that changed. And from that point on, I had issues with my mother and her health, my father and his health. My husband was an alcoholic, and my daughter was a toddler. Nothing worked right for me. And then I realized when I had my next Saturn return, which was when all this other stuff started happening.
Right.
That's when I made the decision that I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to stand in my authenticity. I'm going to say what I believe in. If you don't believe in it, that's fine. I'm not going to try and convince you. And, if you don't believe in it, you believe in whatever you want to believe in, and I'll believe in what I want to do. And things have started getting a little bit better, except I'm still getting laid off from jobs. But I think I have learned the lesson. Darn this strawberry moon, because it always happens around the strawberry moon.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. The strawberry moon is the moon that was in April, the full moon in April.
Right.
And strawberry moon is like the universe taking a Band-Aid and ripping it off real quick, and it's taking the scab with you of whatever you have. And it's the last 3 years, I have been up and down every road in hell at that time. Well, here comes the strawberry moon. What happens to me this year? Oh, I'm in an auto accident. My car's totaled. It's the last tie I have to my family. So I had to struggle with this. I released the car. I released, to the universe. I say, I'm sorry, thank you for letting me have it, but it's gone. And I'm going to move forward. So I'm getting a new car tomorrow. Woohoo! So, and then that means the job's going to be right around the corner, and I can get my tiny home and live with my cat and make my candles and my apothecary stuff. So it's going to be a better thing. But it's always around the strawberry moon. So I had started writing a couple years ago a book called Lessons of the Strawberry Moon. I was like, man, so I think this is the happy conclusion, so I can finish the book now, hopefully.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm being positive. So
you are one of the more positive people I know. I mean,
well, thank you.
Everybody has their moments, right? Nobody, although my dad used to get really pissed off when I would, because I always looked on the bright side of things, and he would just be like, you can't be a frickin' Pollyanna all the time. And I'm
yes,
like,
you can.
I'm not a Pollyanna. I am a lover of life, and I know I'm pretty damn fortunate. Okay. And I had trials and tribulations like out the wazoo. I had a terrible grown-ups at one point. And Robert says language. Oh, he also said he met Stanton on November 15th, 1968, when he was with the Pittsburgh UFO Research Institute.
Oh, wow.
I would have liked to have been a fly on that wall.
I wasn't born yet.
I was born in 1961. So
my actual first memory is Kennedy's assassination. People don't believe me, but
I believe you.
I remember my mother's reaction to Kennedy's assassination. I didn't know that's what was going on, but yeah.
I remember watching the funeral. So
that I don't. I just remember how angry she was because it interrupted her story. As the World Turns was on,
Yeah.
So anyway.
But, it's just, it's really an interesting thing that you're getting settled. I did not know that was the purpose of the strawberry moon. I am the world's worst on astrology. And my birth certificate is the only birth certificate I've ever said that doesn't say if I was born, what time I was born. There's nothing on my birth certificate about that. And there's no one I can ask left. Right?
Wow.
So I was having an astrology reading at the Eureka Springs UFO conference. And the lady was like, well, I can't really go to specifics. And I'm like, because, just assume if I was born in the morning, give me this one. If I was born at night, give me this one, And so, but it was an eye-opening experience. I'm amazed at how much you know about that. I think that's cool.
I've had that kind of time.
I just enjoy you because you are so diverse, and you're pretty nice too.
Oh, so are you.
Thanks. Oh, yes. But, what does the strawberry moon always have that effect?
Not usually. It comes right after the eclipses, and the eclipses. I can tell you a story, but if I start crying, I'll stop.
Well, if you start crying, just take a deep breath and know I love you, and we'll wait or move on. Don't feel pressured.
If I rush through it, then I don't cry. The lunar eclipse highlights a certain area in your chart. And this one certain year, it was in my house of career. So what it does is it's dark, it's dark, it's dark, it's dark. All of a sudden the moon shines. It's dark, it's dark, it's dark, it's dark, because it's a lunar eclipse, right? So that brief instant, you get illumination, literal, illumination into an area of your life that needs changing. This was in my house of career. Okay. The thing I wanted to do was to be authentic, write books about my experiences, about the things I know, the things I believe in, and not have people go, you're full of shit. I'm sorry, Robert. You're full of poo-poo. that's what I've always wanted. And I think I'm finally getting to that point where if people don't like it, that's fine. Whatever. um, and then 2 weeks later, the solar eclipse comes. And whatever the lunar eclipse highlighted, your problem, your sticking point, it's going to be removed. It's going to illuminate. Sun's going to shine. It's not going to be there anymore.
Does the sun cleanse it?
Yeah. Because in the sun, everything's bright. There's nowhere to hide. You can't hide anywhere. You can see, even in the shadows, you can see. So I knew the thing that was holding me back in my career was my family. For some reason, I cared what my father thought, So, I kept that part of my life hidden. So when the lunar eclipse popped up, I knew that was my obstacle, was my father. And I knew he was going to die. So I called my stepmom. I said, hey, what's going on? And, we were chit-chatting and stuff. And she was like, oh, I got to go. Your father's outside. He's in the field. He's covered in blood. I'm like, what? Oh, my God. Go call 911. And apparently he had passed out. And he was literally in the field because they lived on a farm, covered in blood. He hit his head. So she took him to the hospital. And I was just freaking out. I said, he's going to die. And I told my daughter, he's going to die. And she's like, oh, you say that all the time. No, he will be dead in 2 weeks. Well, in less than 2 weeks, my father had died. So the obstacle, the thing holding me back, which I really don't consider him an obstacle, but it was like the sticking point, if you want to call it that, was removed. So ironically, and the solar eclipse was going on someplace on the other side of the world. The day he was buried, he was actually buried during the solar eclipse. So I was like, wow. Okay. So, you can't get much more precise than that. It wasn't happening where we were in Texas, that it was going on. It's kind of funny because it was in a old, we're out in the country, in the cemetery. They didn't even mow the yard or anything. It was just weeds everywhere. And so on one side where his grave is next to my grandparents and everything, the whole family's over there. On the other side, when we get out of the car, there is this bagpiper, old man. And the grass is like this wispy spear grass is what we call it. I don't know what it's really called. And it's like he's wearing a kilt and it comes up to his sporran. And so I'm there with my friend and I grab her arm and I said, do you see that man over there? Is he over there? And she's like, yeah, I see him. Because I'm like, this is just the strangest thing. Why is there a bagpiper in Central Texas? We're German. We don't have anything to do with bagpipes.
Yeah.
So she saw him too, because I thought maybe I was just seeing him. Because he's standing
that
over
happens.
There.
That does happen.
He's over there with a bunch of graves, and the grass is tall, and there's a bagpiper. So, when when they were finishing up the service, he started playing something, Amazing Grace or something. I'm like, okay, he really is there, right? He's just.
Was your dad Scotch?
No, we're German. German Americans. I don't know where he came from. He wasn't in any sort of fraternal organization that would have had a bagpiper. He was Lutheran. I don't know. I don't know where the bagpiper came from.
That's interesting.
It's just weird. Anyway, that's what happens. So when the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse are very strong energies, and they don't always happen precisely on the day, except in my life, the energy goes for 6 months, basically. Okay. And then 6 months later, there's another solar and lunar eclipse. And it's like, okay, for example, December, the full moon last December, highlighted wherever Capricorn is. The full moon was in Capricorn. 6 months later, this upcoming full moon, it's supposed to, the seed was planted then, and it's supposed to take fruit, bloom right now. So whatever the seed was you planted back 6 months ago is supposed to bloom with this full moon. And it happens, guess what? Say it with me. It's in my house of career. So it's like, okay. That's when I started looking for jobs.
Right.
Like, so fingers crossed.
You got it, girl.
I hope so. I know so.
Just
it'll work.
It. Yeah.
It's mine. But so the strawberry moon, I think because it was tied into those lunar and solar eclipses and they were so powerful that year, that energy just kept coming on. And it was just like, you ever been hit by your grandma's house shoe? It flaps, but it stings when it flaps, it's astrology. Southern astrology.
The house shoe, Southern astrology. I love that. Well, it's so interesting because so many people, and I mean, my grandma, I always laugh and say she was New Age before there was New Age, right?
Mm-hmm.
She was gifted. My mom was gifted. I did not know my mom was gifted until toward the end of her life. She had Alzheimer's. I took her to dinner and she was asking about, the paranormal, the name of my show. And I was like, Paranormal Experience. And she says, don't you just hate it when they line up along the bed and they won't leave you alone? And, and I'm like, really? She's like, I always just tell them, go talk to my mom. I'm little and I have to go to sleep. And I'm like, okay. I mean, we were in the middle of a restaurant. I had gone to her residence home, gotten her, taken her out for lunch. And this is the conversation we're having. And she had Alzheimer's, right? And she was clear as a bell. I was just like, and grandma too, really? So that apple didn't fall from the tree, but it was just like, nobody talked about that.
Exactly. It was the same way in my family. I remember being little, my mom asking me, what do you want for, Christmas? Oh, I want a new Barbie. Hey, honey, here's your farmer's almanac. I don't want no farmer's almanac. I'm a little girl. I'm in the South. I want a Barbie. And so I learned about, tides and which crops to plant, and astrology was in there, and it was like farmer's almanac. I don't know about it now, but it was very detailed.
Yeah.
There was an astrological forecast.
I'm pretty sure it still is.
That's what I grew up learning.
Plant.
Yeah. And there would be certain times where, when the crayon would break, we'd put them in the bucket. So we had a bucket of broken crayons.
Yeah.
She'd come and take our our crayons and she would drip them over candles. And no, Mama, that's our crayons. And then I didn't realize she was doing candle magic. So I'm like,
yeah,
that hit me a couple of years ago. And then I was in a class with another lady and she's like, oh yeah, everybody's grandmother has a cauldron in the front yard. I'm like, oh my God, my grandmother had a cauldron in the front yard, except it had a hole in it and she turned it into a hanging planter, with little petunias coming out. Yeah. So I'm like, oh my God, I never even it was just a big hanging basket we were supposed to stay away from. I never clicked. And so they were like that. But they were Baptists.
Interesting. We didn't have a cauldron, but we had Jean Dixon religiously. We had all of her interests. And it's funny because my fourth cousin found me on Facebook, who lives in South Alabama. And her opening foray and her message to me was, hi, I'm your fourth cousin on your Duke side, and we have a lot in common.
That's so cool.
Like, really? So it is cool, but it is genetic.
Mm-hmm.
I find that fascinating. I had no idea that it was such a strong genetic factor.
But no one ever talked about it. That's just it. They would identify as Baptist women, they go to church on Sunday, but they're doing candle magic.
Yeah. And, it's so, how old were you when you realized that's what that was?
Probably about 10 years ago. I just, it clicks when somebody says something. I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. The whole cauldron as a hanging basket, that just, that blew my mind. I was like, because we were always told stay away because it was huge. It was a huge cauldron, like, hocus pocus, and it had the little tripod it was on, but, you're like, get away from that. If that falls, that'll kill you.
Yeah.
Because it was huge, but it had.
We had something that if it falls, it would kill you.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was.
It's a cauldron, I bet you.
I don't know. But my other grandmother was so strictly Southern Baptist, like, boom, 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 boom. I mean, and there's no way that there weren't skill sets there. And yet they were so completely unacknowledged. I know they were unacknowledged, but she was crafting, and she made quilts. I still have some of them, but she sold them as for income supplementation and lived by herself. So
you know about the quilts. You know about the quilts, right?
No.
Oh my God.
Okay.
How much time do we have?
We got 45 minutes.
Oh, geez. Okay. There are patterns of the quilts, right?
Yeah.
There's like the log cabin pattern and the starburst pattern. Everything means something, right? You get you do the quilts. A lot of times they were given to newlyweds, right?
Mm-hmm.
They would have the wedding chain pattern,
right?
The little chains. The stars were for like fertility and stuff. And as they stitched, they weaved in the intentions. Here's your quilt.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that happened.
That's so interesting.
Because like, I'm making this quilt for Barbara Sue, and she's going to have 15 kids. Oh yeah, Mary, get me some coffee. And
yeah,
maybe they didn't, put the intentions in, but they were making those quilts and stuff, and everything was done by hand.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a bitch, you had the sewing machine, you could do the border in the backing, but all the blocks and everything were done by hand.
Had to be.
Yeah.
Well, that's funny because I don't tell very many people this, but when I was in Scotland, we went to a town called Lithgow. It was our first day of touring with the worst tour company in the absolute world.
Oh.
But yeah, never let your adventures be mysterious. I'm just going to say that. But it was so funny because we had stopped at this place, and there was a fabric shop next door, and I don't quilt. And I was just so compelled because I found this most beautiful pattern for a little girl. I had just had a granddaughter. I was so taken with this. It just came to me. I'm going to make Amelia a quilt. Aww. And I found a beautiful velveteen fabric for the backing. Ooh. And so I brought it home, and it sat there. And I did go get a sewing machine because I was trying to do it by hand, and my stitching is not that good anymore, right? But it was just something that I absolutely had to do. Mm-hmm. And everybody else is still eating, and I'm in a fabric store in Scotland in a little village, right? And it's just like, okay, this is weird. This is not something I've ever done before. I don't know how to do this, but genetically it had to happen.
I think it's ingrained in us somehow. It's like the herbal cures. People would say they're holistic now, or way back then they would have been witchcraft. But
yes, it was witchcraft.
There are ways to cure people without pharmaceuticals.
That are much healthier.
Oh yeah. When I was working at that one place with all those men, the first year or so, they thought I was just that weird person, she's always got books. She's always got something in her purse, and then finally and we all had editing bays, and knock. Do you have anything for my headache? Yes. Just hold on 1 minute. Here's my peppermint oil. Put that on your temples,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And they'd come down. Eventually, one by one, they would all, suck it up and, come down and say, do you have anything for whatever their ailment was? And yes, I do, actually. I have a headache. Okay, well, pinch right here, right here.
Oh, that's such a great tool. Yeah.
Like, how do you know this? Like, well, how do you not know this?
Yeah.
How do you not know it? That's an honest, legitimate question, is how do you not know it? I mean, how is it that it's not like I went to school for this or anything.
Well,
it's just something I know.
Depending on your family, you may have.
True.
Because my grandma, I was pinching way before. Mm-hmm. Because my grandma taught me that.
Yeah.
And
it's just.
Hi, Anton.
He's my neighbor. He's my tornado buddy. He's about 30 miles from me.
Yeah.
we look out for each other.
Well, nice to have you in here because you know what? Everybody needs a tornado buddy.
Oh my God, he has gotten so. Oh my God, the tornadoes have been bad this year.
They've been
They're
bad
all
here
heading
too. Yeah.
heading to. We had one that was they were tracking and it was coming down the highway, and Toby and I got in the closet. He was not happy because it was his closet that I was in there. And about three-quarters of a mile, it just suddenly turned north and it started going towards his house. But it missed us. It was going to rip us up.
Wow.
So
yeah, Carl's our producer and friend Carl has been dodging them left and right. It's really kind of scary for him. He's in Missouri.
Oh,
so they've been getting nailed.
My little buddy's
all year.
Here now. Yeah. Well, it's got to stop. That's all I can say. It needs to stop.
Well, I don't think it's going to because it's just so freaking hot. It is unnaturally hot. Somebody is jacking with the weather, and I'm going to tell you that I know that's a thing because I was out on the Atlantic Ocean in Sandy on a cruise ship.
Yeah,
and that monster hit the jet stream, cold water, which dissipates them.
It should be, yeah.
And it got stronger. And then it hit Jersey. So people messed with that. That was not a natural storm. They don't strengthen over cold water. But and I'm not even a conspiracy theorist. I'm just a storm watcher.
Right, exactly.
And you know these things. So
right before that last round hit us, there was it was like every Sunday. It was always every Sunday. It was getting to be a joke for like a month.
Yeah.
Some freak storm would show up. And 2 days before that really, really bad one hit us up here in North Texas, there was some guy on YouTube 2 days before. And you look at the weather forecast and it's like, oh, chance of rain. But he was showing the radar, coming out of Houston, and there were like beams coming out of Houston. And then 2 days later, all those tornadoes hit us. And that's just too weird.
You cannot, I'm so sorry. But I was never a conspiracy theorist until I started paying attention.
Exactly. Now I'm a conspiracy realist.
Yes. And, doing Fate, this magazine has been in publication since 1947. We have had topics covered. Every topic has been covered multiple times from different perspectives. And, started out with ufology. And it's just anything really interesting that can affect people's worlds or doesn't. It's just really so full of information. And if you go back through the archives, it's just mind-blowing. And
I love Fate. I used to subscribe when I was just a wee lass. I would get my little monthly digest. And my mom would always be, you don't believe that now, do you? I was like, well, I don't know.
I'm still trying to decide.
Let me think about it,
Yeah.
You gave me the Farmer's Almanac. Why can't I have Fate magazine?
It's not that different.
No, it's really not.
Just more info, in the Farmer's Almanac because it's so compacted. And maybe the summer will bake them out. Well, where I live, it's so humid that the summer kicks them off. So
it's snowing in Montana right now. What the heck?
I know, right? I don't even understand that.
I've given up.
Yeah, I don't even. I just take what shows up. We do have a generator now.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, we had some bodacious storms not too long ago, and I was just like, I'm tired of having to go for days without power. Can we do something about that? So we did. But
that's good.
Well, it's an older neighborhood. There's big tall. I had a branch fall today, for God's sakes. There's trees that are aging out, as it were, and they're big trees. And I'm just like, oh, please don't hit my house.
My neighbor has a huge tree, and 2 or 3 tornadoes ago, her tree cracked. It was across her yard, across my yard. I'm like, okay. move your
Didn't
tree,
hit the
please.
houses though.
No,
That's good.
every morning
That's
I
a
say I'm
miracle.
so blessed. Yeah, I'm blessed. I'm thankful. I'm very appreciative.
Yes.
So,
well, let's
anyway.
talk more about you.
Okay, if we must.
Okay. I want to talk more because you have mentioned doing shadow work, and this new book that you have, that's not it. This one, The Night Inside, a guided journal to shadow work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know you and I know how diverse your interests are, but you've mentioned shadow work before when we've talked. Now you're bringing other people along this road, and it's a healing road.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you talk about that a little bit? Because I think this is such an important topic.
It's basically a book of prompts. And I think each chapter, if you want to call it that, has 13 prompts. And then I write a little insight, something I've gone through, like I was telling you before about, timelines, when I had a hard realization of when everything started going wrong and, how that affected me. I was suicidal at times, but then I realized that's not the timeline I want to be on. Being intuitive, you can see, it's like putting two negatives together. You see your reality and you can see a potential reality, or you see your reality and you can see a ghost, or everything goes back to vibrations.
Yes.
And I decided I'm going to make me better. And so it asks you things like, when was a time when you were happy? And it gives you a page or so to write it out. And you have to think about, when was I happy? Or when someone did this, how did you feel? And so you have to get in touch with your real emotions, the core emotions. And then there's something in there. There's this one point, I think it's my disclaimer to the book, basically. But I said, I am not a medical professional. I am standing here as a witness because I have done this work. I have seen the dark side. And if you continue down this dark side of depression and everything, that's going to lead to a situation that you can't come back from. So you have to be honest with yourself. Say, this happened. It's not my fault that it happened. It happened to me, not because of me. It happened to me. And it was the other person's fault, if you want to call it, but it's really nobody's fault. It was their reality. They perceived me to be, I'm just going to use my mother. My mother was an alcoholic. She was very abusive. She would hit us, beat us all the time. It was not because of me playing Barbies quietly in my room. It was her reality, her alcoholism, the way she saw things, and she lashed out on me. I had nothing to do with it. I was very, very quiet. But a lot of people take on that trauma, like, why is it me? Why did I do that? Why are they doing this to me? And so you have to be honest and say, I didn't cause it. So you do that work, and then it just prompts you to ask more things. And so I go into and I tell a few more stories and a few more insights, if you want to call them that. So that's what it is mainly. It's like, okay, once you get to a point where you realize that you can heal yourself, it sounds silly, but it is as easy as going, no more. It takes a long way to get there, but when you stand up and say, I'm not going to accept this anymore, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make myself the best person I can be. That's when it really changes. I've had some friends who have unfortunately lost their children. They've taken their own lives. One of my friends' daughter was murdered in January. So I was really surprised that enough people, found this book, because, I put it on Facebook and that's about it. And it stayed on the bestsellers list for 2 months for grief and suicide. And it's a way of dealing with the pain and the trauma, because until you break that trauma, you can never really truly move forward. So it's something I'm still working on. So, it's something I could do over and over and over. I can go through the book again and write all my answers out, because it keeps changing. So I want no trauma, no drama in my life. So I hope other people can work through theirs too.
I hope that they can too, because, I have not, shadow work, the term is actually relatively new to me. And I have a lot of shadow periods. So when I saw this, I thought, I'm going to have to try this.
Yeah, it's working with the deeper, dark parts of you. A lot of people, like when they tell a story, they're always perfect. They're always the hero. They have no bad side to them, but we have a duality in nature. Yeah. And it's when you can totally face it and you can stand there with your feet planted in the darkness and say, I see you, I recognize you, I validate you, and now you're gone. It takes a lot to get there, but it's not that simple, but and it's more powerful, I think, when you with handwriting.
Yes.
It's like stitching, it's muscle memory. You're doing it.
Yes. And it's a form of manifestation too.
So hopefully you can help some people.
Well, apparently you've helped a lot of people.
Oh.
I mean, people don't go on the bestseller lists in their category without having some effect.
I hope so. I mean, because I've had so many, you see them on Facebook all the time. If you need a friend, I'm always here, a suicide hotline, and there have been times when I've needed a friend and I reached out to people and they're like, oh, well, I can't help you right now, but I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have 2 friends who've actually have been there for me when I needed a friend. I needed them both last week. So they both stood there for me. And I love them to death. But most people are just too busy. They don't really, they're just saying it because it's, trendy or whatever. They don't really mean it.
I think maybe people do mean that they want you to do that. Mm-hmm. But when the time comes, it may not be a convenient time for them, or it may not be what they want to do that day, or whatever. I think that the offer is sincere, but I don't think they really recognize what they're offering.
That's true.
Because it's very hard to stop your life to go and help do something. But there are times that I know if I hadn't had someone who would do that, I don't know what I would have done. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was at a point where, because if I'm coming out and saying, I need this, or I just need help. I'm not sure what kind of help, but I just need help. I need an ear.
Yeah.
And, sometimes that's the hardest thing to find.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's the hardest thing to say.
Well, it is the hardest thing to say, especially if you pride yourself on not needing anyone.
Yeah. Or I've never had anyone,
Well, that too.
And I called a friend last week and I was in tears. I was in a very dark place and said, I need a friend. And she's like, what you need, babe? I got you. And, she listened to me for a couple of hours. And that's all I really needed was to someone to be there and say, I've got you. What do you need? Whether or not she was actually going to do anything, I don't know. But, but she was there.
She was there. Yeah. And, you need that support. I don't care who you are, how independent you are, how strong you think you are. There comes a time that you just can't.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you just need help recognizing that.
Yeah. But once you do, once you've hit the basement and you think you can't go any lower, you really can. But you have to not let the darkness overtake you. And that's the hard thing.
And that's something I used to say it a lot, that, because I also had a alcoholic, addictive step-parent, not parent, but a parent who allowed it. And it was so hard to actually say, I've got this, because every time I would try to, boom, I didn't. And when I would reach out to other adults or whomever, my dad told me to go to the school counselor to get help because it needed to be documented. He couldn't do anything without documentation back in the day. And I was blown off there. It's very difficult when
Yeah.
you don't feel like anybody but you is going to stand in the gap and you're standing in your own gap. That's hard to do,
Yeah.
you know, because that's not, you're too close. And like I was too young, I couldn't help myself.
Yeah.
And when I did try to, I was an incorrigible youth. That was the term applied to me.
Yeah.
So,
When yeah, I remember it's like my dad left when I was 8. He just walked
mhm,
off and left us. And I remember being like 9 or 10 and things happening. And I would reach out to an aunt and they were so embarrassed. They didn't want to acknowledge it. We don't have that kind of stuff going on in our family. I don't know what you're talking about.
right.
Well, apparently you do.
There
So,
is. It's my family too, and it's there.
yeah,
And
there's a history of it and nobody would ever talk about it. There was
mm-mm.
a huge history of alcoholism in our family, and abuse. Um, Nobody would ever talk about it. And I didn't know about it until my mom passed. And like, well, this is the way so and so was, and this is the way
Right.
his father was. I'm like,
Well, a lot of times the women were abused, and they
yeah,
would take that frustration to the children.
I think that's exactly
And
what played out with my mother. She had the Cinderella complex of, getting
yeah,
married in the 50s and having children and the perfect little house. And then when my dad walked out and left, her world crumbled and she took it out on us.
yeah.
And where can we turn? We're just children. So
Well,
that
and
was,
I think that's where a lot of or correct me if I'm wrong because you've researched this a lot more, but I feel like sometimes the manifestation of gifts, or dare I say powers, but definitely different gifts, stem from that angst
mm-hmm,
of being an abused person. The anger when you can't manifest it toward the person that deserves it,
right.
right? When you can't voice it, then it has to come out in other ways. And, I think Carrie was a powerful movie because that was an extreme example.
Yeah.
But I've experienced lesser things of that nature.
Yeah. It has to come out somewhere.
It does, because
Um,
you can't keep it in, it's too big.
yeah. That's where all the generational healing is coming into play too, I think. And I have started thinking maybe that's why there's a disconnect from people who are my daughter's age, because
Mhm.
almost everybody I know who has a child that age has broken from their family. They don't want anything to do with their family anymore. Um, and it's like, was that the generational healing as we broke the curse, if you want to call it that? And now they are their own entity and they're moving on their own timeline. I don't know. But there's a disconnect in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, on a more positive note.
Well, I mean, it is life, right?
Yeah.
And Robert said his mother used to complain that relatives always seemed to die during the most inconvenient times.
Isn't that the truth?
He could be
I
Southern.
I had a friend who went on vacation for 2 weeks and he came back and I said, well, how was your vacation? He goes, well, my sister died. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And so, they wouldn't let him extend his vacation. So he had to deal with all that during his vacation time, which I think was not very nice.
I agree. I mean,
So,
because bereavement time is separate from vacation time.
yeah. So
So, and that's why we have bereavement time.
I also learned to never ask people, how was your vacation? Because, things like that happen.
Well, weird stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but I got stranded on the side of a road in Scotland on my first trip there.
Oh,
So,
no.
yeah, I'll tell you about that sometime. But it was in a dive hotel, no less. So, yeah.
Mm.
Yep. So that's why I say if you're going to go on a trip, just
I
go
think
on your trip.
I know
And
exactly what you're talking about, too.
it was an experience. And I didn't die. So there's that.
That's good.
And
Yeah.
I made some very good friends while I was there. And the 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 general manager at the Strathorn Hotel will always be my friend. I sent him a
Oh,
knight.
that's nice.
I sent him a knight statue.
Oh, nice.
So it had shining armor.
But
So,
see, it's little stories like that that make us all so unique and so interesting.
yeah.
And I have a gazillion of those, and it's not enough to write a book, but, I could tell, like the governor of Texas broke my nose when I was, 18 years old.
What did you say to him?
I'm a Democrat. No, no, my thing was, and I was working at a hospital and he was in the auditorium. And so my role was when he comes off the stage, he's going to exit, stage left. I open the door so he doesn't have to, one of those doors. And so I'm getting ready to open the door and I'm just a little wisp of a girl at that time, and he pushes the door open. I think he was a football player at one time. I go flying back into the wall. The door hits me in the face. My nose breaks. I blood. He didn't even know I was back there. So he had no idea. But I have all these little weird stories like this,
Yeah.
And so I've started a new little thing. It's called Buy Me a Coffee or something like that. So I'm putting all these, and you can like have memberships and stuff, but I'm just putting all my little stories out there, like weird things, like
Yeah.
Life is filled. I'm like a paranormal Forrest Gump. Oh, look, it's ping pong,
Yeah. I would read that.
Well, it's Buy Me a Coffee / Victoria Mundae. I just started it yesterday, so I'm going to be putting all my little weird stories out there, just things that make us interesting. It's online. It's this little website, and it's called
I saw that.
buymeacoffee.com.
Yeah.
And it's free to subscribe and you can read the little stories. And if you want some of the deeper dives and some more of the weird stories, and there's membership levels. And, it's just, it helps supports the creative people with their little content projects and stuff. Or if you don't want to do that, you can just read the little weird stories about my nose getting broken, or the time Mr. Rogers, sang to me in the middle of a cancer symposium. It's like, oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Rogers.
Funny.
So it's just little weird things like that. So
the dog has arrived.
I hear you. Toby's down here.
See, Toby's nice and quiet.
For now. Yeah.
It's so fun because they always show up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a given. I have never once gotten through a show that at least one animal didn't make an appearance of some type.
Well, they're part of the family. I mean,
they are part of the family.
I mean, we're friends. We have that friendly vibe going. Why wouldn't they be in here?
Exactly. Because it feels good.
Yeah. It's just like, sitting in the living room talking.
Well, it is. I mean, and I really am so impressed with you. But what kind of, do you do actual energy work?
Yes.
You're going to have to elaborate.
No, just kidding. Energy work.
Oh, you're such a mess.
My book I'm currently working on, The 7 Lights, because I'm going through all this. Well, first I started with the shadow work because I'm trying to get rid of the trauma. Mm-hmm. Someone told me trauma lives in your body. I went, poo, that's crazy. And then I was in a yoga class and I was having a really bad day. It was the anniversary of my dad's passing, and I was literally seeing him everywhere. He was in my face yelling at me, and I couldn't walk. And so I struggled to get into a yoga class, and the teacher saw me and she came back, she put my hands on the bar and she helped me get into these assisted stretch type thing where you're leaning back. And I didn't know what the heck she was doing.
Oh my gosh.
So make sure I watch my language. But as I was, squatting down, I literally, and so did she, so everybody in the room heard this loud pop. And I thought, seriously, my hip had broken. I just started crying. And I just didn't know what the heck was going on, and she was like, I got you. And she was holding on to me and making me go lower and lower. And all I could do was just cry like a baby, And I'm so embarrassed, I'm in the yoga class. Well, I later found out that was somatic yoga. And that is the entire point of somatic yoga is to get into these stretches and these movements where your tension is released. And I didn't know at the time that the part where my back is hurt, that's where you store your family trauma. Like, that's just crazy, but it's the right spot, so I'm working on that. So as I discover, the shadow work, now the somatic yoga, then I started learning about changing timelines. And so I would consider that energy work, because
I
don't say it's candle magic or anything, but, let's look at the Catholic Church. What do? You light a candle, you say a prayer. Same thing here. You light a candle, you vision what you want, always with gratitude and appreciation. Even, as my car was being towed off after it was totaled, I was devastated, but I was very thankful that I had those 14 years. It was a very old car. So you have to do everything with gratitude. So yes, I think that is energy work. I wouldn't say I sit here and burn bay leaves or write poetry or anything, but I did write a book.
Or two.
Which Way to My Soulmate is. So that's it's very funny. I put a lot of humor into that book, and it does have love spells in it. Thank you, Chat GPT. It's that is one of the things Chat GPT can do, is make love spells for you. But the whole book is about loving yourself first, respecting yourself, being authentic, loving yourself, taking care of you. And when you have all those elements put together, then love comes in. Romantic love, the boom chiggy wow wow kind.
Yeah.
But you have to do all the other work first. So I think that's energy work too.
I think that's definitely energy work, because you are not in a position to deal with that kind of relationship if you're unhealed and you're not. I mean, if you're going to have a relationship that's meant to be like the kind that will last forever, it's very difficult to be able to maintain that if you're not healed, if you haven't done some work. David, a case in point, we were married when I was 19 and divorced when I was 23.
Oh,
because
but it was a fun
I was
4 years.
Well, it was, but there was a lot of fussing also, and I was not in a position, as far as emotional and energy wise and stable, because of the past traumas. I just could not give up control and share a life with someone.
Yeah.
And when I moved back to Birmingham and had my children, Allie was 4, she's 30 now, and we got back together, and it was just the perfect, and has been. I mean, obviously no relationship is perfect, because we're both very strong personalities and neither one of us is often wrong, right? So it makes it a lot of fun. But it took him literally saying, I am on your team. I love you. I'm here and I'm on your team. I'm not against you. For me to go, okay, done.
Yeah.
So
people don't realize that trauma is the other person in the relationship.
Absolutely.
It's worse than the mother-in-law. Gotta get rid of it.
By the way, Robert says he loves those green eyes. Forgive him.
Aww.
So, but
are you single and near me? Just kidding. No.
I don't know where he is. He's my friend, and I don't know where he lives.
I don't know where I am half the time anyway, so it's okay.
There's that. But anyway, so I totally agree that you have to do some work in order to not just manifest it, be able to accept it. I mean, there's a lot that people will gain from your books.
Yeah. The War and Peace of the book I'm working on is 480 pages. I've got to cut it down because I was doing all this healing, the stretching and the shadow work and shadow whatever and love spells and all that kind of stuff. Then I realized, as I was talking, a trainer at the gym, she was saying, okay, you need to massage your injured area and you need to do this way. I'm like, oh, it's because of the lymphatic system. She's like, what are you talking about? So I started explaining to her the lymphatic system. And then I was like, okay, well, it's the same thing like with your chakras. Your chakras are all aligned, energy flows this way and all this kind of stuff. And I realized that the one I'm talking about now is called the Seven Lights. It's
Which, by the way, has a gorgeous cover.
Oh, thank you. I'm learning computer art. I got that kind of time.
Well, it shows. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. But it's showing that different cultures, religions, philosophies, civilizations all have the same way of healing, but we're just calling it different things. It's all about energy work. It's about the frequency, the vibration, the resonance, like your chakras, once they start aligning it, they give off a certain frequency. And a lot of those align with like the Schumann resonance and certain binaural beats and stuff. And, the Taoist philosophy calls it one thing and the Native Americans call it something else, but it's the exact same thing, which is why the book is 480 pages long, because I compared them all. And I'm like, okay, I need to. And then you get into planetary alignments. The planets give off music, they give off sounds, and those happen to correlate with the frequencies of the chakras. Oh, who saw that coming?
Not me.
So, oh, yeah. So I'm going to shrink it now.
Don't shrink it too much because that's interesting.
Everything connects. It's like there's sound baths. You can, when you go, have you done the sound baths?
Yeah.
Well,
I actually I use the, I have the DVD or the CD from the place in Joshua Tree.
Yes.
And I use that.
But once you're there and they're actually all doing the crystal bowls and stuff, your teeth vibrate, it is just so your heart, your whole body, it changes your frequency. And
yes.
Oh, yes. That's it.
That's what I use to clear my room before I do a show now.
Oh, excellent.
So,
but that's the same. Yeah. When you go into the forest, there's a forest bath. I didn't know about that. Maybe that's why I always enjoy going to the forest, because I've done the Renaissance thing for decades now. I'm Marini. We always hang out in the forest. It's, you are grounded. You're brought back to center. You become, well, I don't want to say you want to become one with the trees, but you actually become one with the trees. And you're in resonance with the earth, which is Native American healing, Chaco Canyon, all that kind of stuff. It's the same every single place. So,
you're so interesting and diverse.
Oh, thank you.
And I can't wait for that book to come out. Please don't cut it too much, or just make 2 volumes.
Oh, good Lord. Have you seen the Rendlesham incident?
I'm familiar with it.
The book weighs 9 pounds. I looked it up on Amazon.
Yeah.
This is like 9-pound book. I think I might be in competition with that. But there's no pictures. So I have seen people I know in the paranormal field who are authors, and I always look because I'm interested in see how their books are doing. I want to support them, and I look at the details, see what the comments are and all that kind of stuff. And I've seen, books that are like 200, 300 pages. And then when I get them, I don't want to say I'm disappointed, but I'm disheartened to see that they're in large font, double print with lots of pictures. And a lot of people do that. This book has no pictures whatsoever. It's just words. That's all it is.
How did you break it down?
First, I did chakras. So I went through all the chakras, the frequency, the alignment, what they correlate to. And then I went into sound, color, vibration, frequency. Then I broke it down even further. It's like, okay, what is the new age equivalent to it? So we have sound baths, moon rituals, because the moon gives off a vibration, and some people feel, I'm very euphoric when it's a full moon. Never talk to me when it's a full moon. I'm like a little chipmunk. So
I will remember that.
There's not a full moon now, is there? So it keeps coming back to the same thing over and over. No matter how you want to do it, like when you're in front of a candle, you're very complacent. You're very calm. You're very grounded.
Mhm.
So that's your frequency again. Yeah. So it just chapter after chapter, it's the same thing. And then my favorite chapter, I'll tell you because we're friends. Don't tell anybody. Is about the 1960s and the music of the Beatles. So there is a
That's going to be
frequency
an
in there.
interesting trip. Yeah, there is.
There's a frequency of the Beatles. Because, I would keep coming across questions. I'm like, oh, God, gotta go research this now, And so I would look into the Beatles, and there were words, when they started, what was his name? Ravi Shankar.
Mhm.
When George Harrison started working with him, well, there was some chords and some music in there. Anyway, but it was about...
George Harrison was very mystical.
Oh, I loved him. I think next to John, I think he was my favorite Beatle.
Yeah. And
I'm sorry, he lived the life. He walked the walk and he talked the talk. And so
I think so too. And Robert is in near Pittsburgh.
That's outside of Texas.
There are deets. There are deets there though. So, but I really think that I'm so fortunate that we're friends.
Oh, me too. I'm so glad you contacted me today.
Well, I will always contact you because
I try not to bug people.
Well, you don't bug me. But I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I don't know what's been going on. I've had 2 people cancel on me. And, well, they have one was a very serious reason. And the other was just kind of like, oh, kid sick, which is also serious. Not deriding that. But, I'd had a message from you. And I was just like, I am going to call her. I'm going to message her and see if she wants to come play. Because I knew you were working. So I knew you had something. And
I'm looking for work.
Well, but I meant working writing. So, what a great idea. Intensa has create first volume, given the various historical groups. The second, more technical, sounds like a great book. It is going to be a great book. I'm excited for it.
I need some help, Anton.
So, thank you, Robert. I've truly enjoyed this show too. You were so much fun. And
thank you.
Since my bangs have grown out, we don't quite have the exact same look anymore. We used to look like twins. So.
I stopped coloring my hair, and look what it came out.
It's gorgeous.
I always knew I had blonde hair. Well, I would dye it darker. So yeah.
Why would you dye it darker?
Because I always worked in male industries. I worked in television for 30 years, and they would treat you like you're an idiot, basically.
Yeah, Barbie.
So yeah. So I would always make my hair darker, and I did it so long I forgot what color my hair was.
Well, my hair is pretty much every color of the rainbow with a lot of gray coming through, and it's the steel gray. My grandmother was like the steel gray.
It's flavor seasoning.
Well, I know, right? And I'm okay with that. But I wish that it was going to be a pretty gray instead of the one it's looking like it might be.
No, it's gorgeous.
Aren't we funny? How we always want something different than we have. I don't know.
Just give me a tiny house with my cat. That's all I need. And my margarita machine.
Well, if you have a margarita machine, I will come spend the night in your tiny house with your cat. Or on your porch if you kick me out.
No, there's plenty of room. It's actually the way I'm designing it, because it has a flex room. I think that's where the litter box is going. But I can also make that an office, which I can do podcasts from, and it's separate from everything. It's got lofts, 2 lofts. I mean, this is a lot more than 300 feet. Big porch with a fireplace. CE5.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, CE5, because there's not many people that I would do that with, but I would do that with you. I do it myself, but I don't like doing it with groups because people are weird.
The last time we did it, it was just 5, 6 of us. And I was with a friend who we'd gone and done it before. No, she hadn't. This was her first time. Now that I'm thinking about it. It was her first time with our group. We didn't see things up in the sky, but it was so weird. Right straight up at midnight when we started our meditation, all the coyotes were around us and they all started singing. And it was just so weird. And there was a light, from the house.
Right.
And then it was darkness the rest of the way. And at the very edge of the shadows where the light and the dark broke, I could see little things sparkling.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell anybody what I was seeing, but I told my friend, I was like, I think I just saw something. And she was it over there? And I was like, yeah. She was about 3 feet off the ground. I'm like, actually, yeah, it was. And she was it sparkling and kind of shimmering? I'm like, that's exactly what I saw. So she saw it too. So now I know I'm not totally crazy. But now things are coming on the ground. So I'm optimistic about the next one.
That sounds fun. Well, you'll have to tell me about it.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll bring you back to talk about CE5 because it's really interesting.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes, we'll do that. But we're out of time. So,
okay.
But thank you so much. Tell people your website.
Well, it's just my name, victoriamundae.com, or you can do buymeacoffee.com/Victoria Mundae, or you can find me on Facebook. I have a business Facebook page. It's Victoria Mundae's Paranormal Activities, where I try and highlight my books and the cat. You got it. And I go to the East Texas Psychic Fair, which is coming up July 12th. It's in Tyler, Texas. So I'll be there. I'll be doing tarot readings and just, meeting people and probably chatting and giggling because that's what we usually end up doing.
Yes.
So,
and Robert said, truly enjoyed this show. Love both of you.
Thank you.
So, hey, Lori. So that's my bestie. So, who said great chat. So we are out. Thank y'all so much for listening because you know what? You're the reason we do this. We will see you next time.